I hate Ash's ending. Well, hate might be a strong word to use, but I really don't like how they ended Ash's journey in Pokemon. I'm gonna go over everything about Aim to be a Pokemon Master, which is Ash's last dedicated 11 episodes that nobody watched, and what my takes are on how they went about everything that happened with Ash in those last episodes, because to my knowledge, many others also thought that Ash's ending left a little to be desired. 3 years ago, right before Ash left, I was one of the ones who watched Ash's final fight with Leon as well as the entirety of the Masters 8 tournament, and only after he won the tournament did I realize Ash might actually be removed from the Pokemon anime. And when we saw the screenshots of the new series Pokemon Horizons with these 2 new characters and Ash not being in it, that pretty much confirmed Ash was no longer going to be in the show, since, well, he became the very best. Then Pokemon drops its Aim to be a Pokemon Master 11 episode miniseries where we get to see a trailer showing all the main things about to happen, and it just felt underwhelming. So I never watched those episodes. I only tuned in to see Ash's final episode because that was the last time we were going to see Ash for who knows how long. The reason I never bothered to watch those episodes was because there was literally no hype back then. I remember being pretty excited to see those episodes as they were going to show off Brock and Misty back together with Ash, even Ash getting to use his older Pokemon again. But then I saw them include this random Latias story in it, and I don't know, I never watched those episodes. Nobody was really talking about anything in them that piqued my interest. And so for a long time, I just thought it was a random subplot with Latias and Ash's final episodes of the series, and then he just leaves afterward. Once Horizons came out, I definitely didn't bother looking at the episodes. I just went straight on to the new series, as that was something completely new and fresh, so I basically forgot to watch any of the Aim to be a Pokemon Master stuff. That is, until I got the idea to make this video reviewing Ash's final moments in the show, which of course led me to watch Aim to be a Pokemon Master, and boy, was it low-key kinda mid. Okay, because there was almost no hype back then. I went into this not expecting much, and that's exactly what I got. Before I watched the last 11 episodes, I quickly visited Go's last episode, since I had actually never watched it. Yeah, call me a fake Journeys fan, but I got burnt out during the last season, because the only interesting things were us seeing Ash's old friends in his battles. Even so, I really liked Go's last episode. Everything felt very fitting for his character, and while I wasn't a huge fan of Go, I still liked his personality. His goals were stupid, but he himself is cool. The scene with Ash and Go fighting and riding Lugia is a nice touch, as it went full circle since Ash and Go met each other trying to catch Lugia back in the first few episodes. And overall, I was satisfied with how Go's journey came to a close. The same can't really be said for Ash's ending though. The first episode of Aim to be a Pokemon Master opens up with Ash adventuring on his own after just having said goodbye to Go and Chloe. We see Ash take his next step onto, well, a new path. Of course, Team Rocket shows up, and after fighting them, a Latias suddenly crash lands next to Ash, which at first I thought this was the same Latias from the movie, but it didn't recognize Ash, so then I thought it was a different Latias, but later in these episodes it pretty much confirmed that this was the same Latias from the movie. This whole subplot with Latias really made no sense to me. I don't get the significance of Latias showing up at all. But yeah, the whole idea is that Latias was attacked by something, and Ash being Ash does his usual heroics to gain Latias' trust and restore it back to health, which he did, and Latias for the remainder of Ash's last episode of the series spies on Ash and occasionally helps him from difficult situations. Episode 2 is where Ash meets Misty while trying to catch a Clauncher. They battle over who gets to catch Clauncher, and of course Misty wins and gets it since she's the water type gym leader, but the episode was decent. Some funny moments, but nothing too special. In episode 3, we get the Supreme Overlord Brock back with Silent, which was kind of random, but he's cool. And then this episode is again another what we would consider filler episode, but this one had a bunch of funny moments with Brock, so honestly, I'll let this one slide. Episode 4 is really when we start to notice a pattern. All these episodes have been basically Ash helping Pokemon or meeting with his friends, and in this episode he helps a wild Beartic learn how to correctly use his Ice-type moves. And while I appreciate the use of his older mons coming back to help him out, none of this really screams Ash's last episode type of vibes. It really feels like we're back in the Indigo League but in Journey style. I don't mind it, but again, this isn't what I would have preferred. The episode itself just displays Ash's level of commitment to helping Pokemon in any situation, no matter the difficulty, and although it's inspiring, we've seen episodes exactly like this 100 times before. In episode 5, we get the Squirtle Squad back in action after a weirdly forced conflict between Squirtle and Ash, but the episode ends in the Squirtle Squad putting out a fire and rescuing wild Pokemon from danger. Essentially, another filler episode, but with Ash's older Pokemon. Episode 6 is the most blatant, what we would call nostalgia bait of an episode where everything is just a reference. But I actually really liked this episode. It was funny, and it felt like the writers were setting an homage to all their work over the last 26 years, with giving us a montage of flashbacks with the original animation from the past series. It was a good nod to their work, and I really enjoyed that. Episode 7 was a classic style filler episode, where a Pokemon is stuck and the gang has to figure out how to get the Pokemon unstuck. Then once they do, the Pokemon ends up evolving and getting stuck in another spot, except this time it's in an even worse place. Now, none of these episodes are bad for filler episodes, but this is Ash's last moments in that Pokemon anime. What are we doing making him do pretty much pointless tasks? Like, even the writers realized that this episode was basically useless.
What's up? Couldn't we have just caught and released Whalmer with a Pokeball instead? Who cares? It was a whole lot of fun anyway.
Surely episode 8 isn't another filler episode. It's another filler episode. But this one low-key slaps, I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, my favorite filler of Journeys. The story in this episode is really interesting, classic ghost-type filler episode, but this one just hits different. Episode 9 is when Team Rocket randomly gets a bunch of their old Pokemon back, and they make one of their best plans to steal Pikachu, maybe ever in the anime. But you know, it's Team Rocket, so they always find a way to mess it up, or in this case, Latias gives insight to Ash just in time before Team Rocket actually completes their plan. For a Team Rocket episode, this one's definitely one of the best, although them splitting up after the episode made absolutely no sense. I remember everyone was making videos back then when this episode first appeared in Japan that Team Rocket was officially done. Like, come on. It would have been the worst ending I'd ever seen if that were true. Like, there was literally no incentive for them to walk off other than the plot. I guess same goes with them getting their old Pokemon randomly back as well, but whatever, this episode is still pretty decent. In episode 10, we get the conclusion of the Latias and Latios storyline, and I'll be the first to say, it's all just very random. This whole mini arc made no sense to me at all. I don't understand it, but hey, maybe that's the point. The episode itself wasn't bad. We get a look at this Hunter J wannabe, which I think is where they got the inspiration from, because his arm cannon is basically the exact same as Hunter J's, and instead of this guy riding a Salamence, he's riding Hydreigon. Unironically, this dude is probably the best villain of Journey, since the Darkest Day guy was a joke. At least this random dude was actually a bit of a challenge. The plot was this guy trying to catch Latios because it's rare and he can sell it for a high price, basically the anime equivalent of a Pokemon scalper. And since Ash hates scalpers, he, along with Latias, absolutely embarrassed this guy. He even gets arrested on sight by Officer Jenny. So after Ash and friends save the day, Latias and Latios say goodbye and fly off, back to where they came, and no real mention of the purpose of any of this. No extra meaning, the bad guy was just a normal bad guy, no cause, just random legendaries bumping into Ash as he goes about his business. So we move on to the last episode, episode 11, where we say goodbye to Misty and Brock as they go back to their normal lives, Misty to her gym, and Brock probably on his endless quest to find a wife. Ash returns home, hangs out for a little bit until leaving for the lab, where he runs into Tracy, Professor Oak, some new starter Pokemon, and Gary. Before Gary says goodbye to Ash, he tells Ash, now that he's become the strongest trainer, how close is he to becoming a Pokemon Master? Gary walks off after this, and Ash is left to himself, again pondering what it truly means to be a Pokemon Master. Then after fully taking it in, as he's sitting under a tree in the rain, Ash finally says what we've been waiting to hear from the anime since it began, what a Pokemon Master really is. And in Ash's own words, he says, it's not about becoming the strongest trainer, it's about becoming friends with each and every Pokemon in the world. So basically an unattainable goal, but a goal nonetheless. One of the Pokemon writers compared Ash's goal to a rainbow, that same rainbow we see in the last episode, where you can see the rainbow, run to it, but you can never get to it. And that's essentially what Ash has been doing. Ash will never truly be a Pokemon Master 100%, but you know what? He will never stop trying to be a Pokemon Master. He will always run towards that rainbow, trying to reach it, never giving up in the process, and thus never truly reaching it. Wow. Kinda sad if you think about it, but also inspiring at the same time. A short while later, Ash finds a fork in the road, and the last image of Ash is him throwing up a stick, waiting for it to land to determine where his next journey lies. Team Rocket also banded back together in that episode because, of course, wherever Ash goes, they go. They're basically a package deal after all. We also got to see the return of Ash's Pidgeot in that episode, so good news to all those Pidgeot enjoyers out there, I guess. However, that being said, I have a hard time believing that if this really is the last time we're gonna see Ash, this is the best ending for him. We didn't get fireworks. We didn't get a celebration. We got a continuation. And again, this isn't a bad thing, but I also can't pretend like I didn't just get bored watching Ash's last episodes of the show. Yes, maybe the writing checks out, but there's just something in my heart telling me that this can't be right. For example, what about Ash's dad? Ash finally becomes the closest thing to a Pokemon Master, and Ash's dad is still nowhere to be seen? Like, if he's dead, at least tell us, Pokemon. You literally confirmed his existence in episode 2. Let's not pretend like that didn't happen. And I know why they didn't do this, but we also could have gotten an ending for Ash where he's aged up to a teenager or adult. I mean, if Pokemon Horizons can age up characters, surely they can age up Ash too, right? While some people likely are gonna defend this miniseries in the comments, I just want to point out that I like the episodes, just not for Ash's last episodes. Otherwise, this would have been great for any other time in Journeys. Especially Ash using his older Pokemon to battle or to help out in situations like he did in here. I think we would have all loved to see Ash use his older Pokemon throughout Journeys. He did use Incineroar, but he never had a battle as an Incineroar. Journeys would have been the perfect place to do it, but nope. Pokemon just wanted to focus on Lucario and Pikachu the whole series. Honestly, I'm starting to think Journeys as a whole is the problem here, not Ash's ending in particular. Other than the battles, this series was embarrassing for Ash's last series. He got treated like a side character here, and despite him not using his already captured Pokemon, instead catching new ones, they barely got any screen time either. He might as well have just used his old ones. So, I hate Ash's ending because of Journeys as a whole. Journeys was that series where you could literally do anything with Ash, but instead of utilizing the travel to any region and do whatever, we got the Indigo League Part 2, but less funny and with Go instead of Brock and Misty. Also, I guess Ash wins the league this time. Pokemon just butchered Ash's last final seasons in the show. There were good parts, don't get me wrong, there were, but it did not work with Go's goal, the episodic style, Ash's coordination battles, and Pokemon trying to squeeze every Pokemon in existence in only 150 episodes. That is still like the worst goal the writer set up for the series. This is why I think we deserve to have Ash back again. Sometime down the road, hopefully. I doubt they're going to put him in Horizons anymore. It seems to me that is pretty obvious now. Pokemon doesn't want anything to do with Ash. Yet there are still ways they can utilize his character, like age him up, have him nurture the future generation of Pokemon trainers, or just let him do what he does best, running around helping Pokemon. But I think it's clear Pokemon fans deserve a better ending than whatever the heck this random filler saga was. Even the writers said in an interview they were just buying time before Ash's last episode hit and eventually Pokemon Horizons. Overall, Ash's last 11 episodes weren't terrible. Although it was kinda boring, it served its purpose, showing us what Ash would be doing off screen. He's not always going to be jumping off skyscrapers, saving the world from destruction, or beating up champions, although he's probably still going to be doing that. The point is he cares about other things. Meeting new people and Pokemon is enough of an adventure for him. But still, man, if we're really never gonna see him again, then that means we have to accept the fact that he's always gonna remain 10, he's never gonna see his dad, he's never gonna marry Serena, I already know that one's gonna be the real kicker, and we're also never gonna see him rematch Samurai. Seriously, the amount of people in the anime Ash promised to battle again has got to be in the hundreds at least. In my opinion, I would have just wanted Ash's ending to be more exciting, rather than a bunch of random filler episodes that realistically could have been anywhere else in Journeys and it would have been just as good. But let me know what you thought about Ash's ending in the comments. Thanks for watching, join our Discord, subscribe so we can hit 99,997 subscribers, and I'll see you later. Bye bye!